Hello! Thank you so much for clicking on this video. I'm Riley Rosenthal, and today I'm going to be talking to you about neurodiversity and neurodevelopmental disorders. So, to explain the context of this project, I am currently working on my Gold Award. The Girl Scout Gold Award is a project that some high school Girl Scouts do, where you pick a topic that means a lot to you, and maybe not a lot of people know about, and you get to teach them about it and get them involved in order to make the world a better place. So for me, I chose neurodevelopmental disorders. This has always been a topic that interests me, and I want to share a little bit about that with you all today. So, the reason why neurodevelopmental disorders mean a lot to me is because I have a brother whose brain works a little differently than what's most common. Corbin, my brother, is 21 years old and has severe autism, an intellectual disability, and some other neurological disorders. These are all big words that basically mean that he thinks, learns, and behaves differently than most other people. Because his brain works differently than most, he's faced many struggles that most children and adults haven't. For example, Corbin isn't able to participate in organized sports, have a job, or even have a complex conversation with friends and family. Because of this, sometimes people with neurotypical brains, which I'll go into more detail in a moment, are unsure about how to include him in their activities or talk to him, and are sometimes mean to him too. Being his sister has taught me a lot about how we can be more kind and understanding to people who might interpret information and understand the world a bit differently than what is most common. Before we go to all the complicated stuff, I think it's important to start with the basics. The two main terms you should know are neurotypical and neurodivergent. When someone is said to be neurotypical, it basically means their brain works in a way that matches what society considers quote-unquote normal or expected. Neurotypical people usually process information, communicate, and interact with others and the world in ways that most people do. Although it can still be tough sometimes, they often find it easier to fit in with social norms, expectations, and routines. Some characteristics of neurotypical people include being able to interact with others pretty easily, processing sensory information without major issues, for example, enjoying fireworks or live concerts without feeling anxious or scared, and just generally following traditional learning, working, and living routines. On the other hand, neurodivergent people have brains that work differently than what society expects, often due to conditions like neurodevelopmental disorders. These differences can affect how they experience everyday life, but they do not impact their value as individuals or how they should be treated by others. Neurodivergent people might have unique ways of communicating, find certain things harder to understand, or have learning styles that help them thrive in different environments. They may also be more sensitive to things like bright lights, crowded spaces, or the taste of certain foods. For example, someone with ADHD might struggle to focus in a traditional classroom, but do really well in a hands-on learning environment. Someone with autism might find social interactions challenging, but have an incredible ability to focus on and excel at something they're passionate about. According to a 2023 meta-analysis of genetic effects associated with neurodevelopmental disorders and co-occurring conditions by Nature Human Behavior, a well-respected peer-reviewed scientific journal, it is estimated that about 15% of children and adolescents are affected by neurodevelopmental disorders. This clearly shows that neurodiversity is a natural and significant part of human diversity. So, it's important to recognize that neither being neurotypical nor neurodivergent is better or worse. There are simply different ways of experiencing and interacting with the world. So, what are neurodevelopmental disorders? Neurodevelopmental disorders, or NDDs, are a group of conditions that affect the nervous system and cause the brain to develop differently from the typical developmental pathway. NDDs affect how the brain processes information and handles things like learning, behavior, social interactions, and movement. Unlike other brain disorders that start later in life, NDDs are present from a young age and can influence how the brain develops in many different ways. NDDs can affect the brain in so many ways, from causing mild changes in specific areas, like reading or focusing, to having a broader impact on many parts of daily life, such as communicating, interacting with others, and movement. Something that not many people know about neurodevelopmental disorders is that they can vary a lot in how they're expressed in people, and they aren't a one-size-fits-all diagnosis. Even though two people might have the same condition, how it shows up in their daily lives can be very different. This means that two people with the same NDD, like autism or dyslexia, which I'll talk more about in a moment, can act very differently from each other. For example, one person with autism might not speak at all and need a lot of help in their daily life, while another person with autism might have no trouble talking, live independently, and may face challenges in certain areas, like social interactions or managing complex tasks. Similarly, ADHD might show up as being easily distracted in one person and as being overly active, maybe in how much they talk or physically move around, in another. Understanding that NDDs can look different in different people is important for creating personalized ways to help them and for diagnosing them correctly in the first place. Also, it's common for people with one NDD to also experience other conditions that affect the brain, like anxiety, depression, or epilepsy. These overlapping conditions can sometimes make diagnosis and treatment more complex. So, in conclusion, understanding the complexity of NDDs is important if we want to properly support people whose brains work differently from what society is most trained to understand. Now that I've talked about what exactly neurodevelopmental disorders are, I want to talk about some of the most common NDDs and how they influence brain development and the way people think, learn, and interact with the world. Autism spectrum disorder, or ASD, affects how a person communicates, interacts in social situations, and behaves in everyday life. It's very important that people recognize that it's called a spectrum disorder for a reason. ASD can present itself in so many different ways, from someone who may need daily support for things like communication, routines, or personal care, to someone living independently with unique strengths like being really knowledgeable about a topic that they're interested in, as well as some unique struggles like interpreting social cues differently than neurotypical people, or needing more clarity in conversations, or feeling sensory overload in overstimulating environments like big sports games or overcrowded airports. Attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, or ADHD, affects a person's patterns of inattention, which is basically having trouble focusing or staying on task, hyperactivity, which means being more physically active or having trouble staying still, especially in situations where calmness is expected, and impulsivity, which is basically struggling to think about the full effects of their actions before taking them. While the traits of this disorder can make certain tasks like organization and time management more challenging than average, people with ADHD often do better than average in creative problem solving and thinking outside the box. Intellectual disabilities, or IDs, affect how a person reasons, learns, behaves, and adapts to new and changing situations, which are important skills needed for daily living, like communicating, learning, and adapting to change. The severity of IDs can vary greatly, affecting how much support a person may need in different areas of daily life. Learning disabilities are a category of neurodevelopmental disorders that impact specific areas of daily life, like reading, writing, or understanding math. For example, dyslexia affects reading and understanding language, dyscalculia affects math skills, and dysgraphia affects writing ability. So overall, neurodevelopmental learning disabilities affect specific areas of learning without impacting a person's overall intelligence. Tourette syndrome is characterized by repetitive, involuntary movements or vocalizations, called tics. These tics vary in severity and can change over time, both in severity and the types of tics someone makes. While tics are the primary characteristic, many individuals with Tourette syndrome also experience other conditions like ADHD or OCD. Developmental coordination disorder, or DCD, better known as dyspraxia, affects a person's physical coordination, making tasks related to movement like writing, tying shoelaces, and other everyday activities more difficult. However, with the right intervention and support, people with DCD can learn strategies to manage these challenges and make them less disruptive in daily life. Despite these disorders often being known to limit an individual's ability in everyday life, it's crucial to recognize that neurodivergent individuals have their own unique strengths. Someone with autism might be able to focus deeply on a subject they're passionate about, allowing them to become extremely knowledgeable and potentially make extraordinarily meaningful contributions to the world. Similarly, individuals with dyslexia are often strong visual thinkers, which can support creative problem solving in areas where written language may be more challenging. By understanding the strengths and struggles of people with NDDs, the world can better support and appreciate the diverse experiences of those with neurodevelopmental disorders. Interacting with neurodivergent people may be a little different than with neurotypical people, but it's not difficult, you just have to remember a few things. The first thing is to be patient. Neurodivergent individuals may need extra time to process information or complete tasks. For example, someone with autism may need more time to understand social cues or instructions. Being patient allows them to respond comfortably and confidently without feeling rushed. The second thing is to avoid making assumptions. Don't assume what a neurodivergent person can or can't do based on their diagnosis. As discussed earlier, neurodevelopmental disorders can vary greatly among individuals.
Instead of assuming, ask respectful questions and be open to learning about their unique strengths and challenges. Third is to use clear communication. It may be helpful for some people with more significant support needs to have clear and direct conversations to avoid misunderstandings. However, this isn't necessary for all neurodivergent people. It's best to get to know the person and learn what type of communication works best for them. The fourth thing to keep in mind is to respect their boundaries. Neurodivergent people may have specific boundaries related to sensory experiences or social interactions. Some might be sensitive to touch, sound, or light, while others may need more time alone to decompress. Respect these boundaries by not pressuring them into uncomfortable situations and acknowledging that everyone's comfort zones are different. The fifth is to offer support, but don't force it. Offer help in an empowering way. Instead of assuming someone needs assistance, ask if they'd like help. Some may prefer to handle tasks independently, even if it takes longer. Respect their preferences and simply be available if support is wanted. And last, be open to friendship. Neurodivergent individuals, especially those with more severe conditions, seek meaningful connections just like anyone else. Approach them with kindness, empathy, and an open mind. Friendship qualities like trust, respect, and having fun together remain the same regardless of neurodiversity. By practicing patience, clear communication, respect, and support, you can build stronger relationships with neurodivergent people and help create a more inclusive world. Being considerate and understanding of neurodivergent individuals is really important because, firstly, everyone deserves respect and to be included, especially if they're trying their best and just need some extra help to succeed. And having a supportive environment doesn't just benefit those with neurodevelopmental disorders, it builds a world where we can see incredible achievements from all kinds of people. Some examples of amazing people with neurodevelopmental disorders include Michael Phelps, the most decorated Olympian, Emma Watson, known for playing Hermione Granger in Harry Potter and Belle in the live-action Beauty and the Beast, and Paris Hilton, famous for being a reality TV star and entrepreneur, have ADHD. Billie Eilish, a Grammy-winning music artist, has Tourette syndrome. Daniel Radcliffe, best known for playing Harry Potter, and Cara Delevingne, successful model and actress, have dyspraxia. And Greta Thunberg, a global leader in the fight against climate change, has autism. These incredible people show that, with understanding and support, people with neurodevelopmental disorders can achieve remarkable things. The last thing to talk about is how you can make a positive difference in how society treats people with neurodevelopmental disorders. And there's a few ways you can do this. The first is to educate yourself and others. Knowledge is power, and by learning about neurodevelopmental disorders, like you are today, and the challenges faced by the people who have them, you can better understand how to help break down stereotypes and misconceptions. The more people who understand NDDs, the more inclusive our world can be. The second is to advocate for inclusion. Whether at school, online, or just out in the world, speak up for neurodivergent people. It can be hard to stand up for yourself as is, so it's especially important to do it for people who are often mistakenly overlooked. Small actions, like asking if someone who has an NDD, especially a more severe one, wants to hang out with you or your group, can make a big difference. Next is to volunteer. There are so many organizations that support the NDD community through advocacy, education, and helpful services. Volunteering at these places can make a real difference. One place that I volunteered at and loved in the summer is I Can Bike, where you get to teach neurodiverse children how to ride a bike over the course of a week. And lastly, be the good example in everyday life. Oftentimes, making a long-lasting, sustainable difference starts with everyday actions. Treat neurodivergent people with the same respect and kindness you would show anyone else. Challenge any discrimination when you see it, and be a role model for inclusive behavior. Simple acts of kindness, respect, and understanding can create a ripple effect, encouraging others to do the same. If you can recognize and appreciate the unique perspective that neurodiverse people bring to the world, you can help shift the narrative from seeing differences as deficits to valuing them as an essential part of human diversity. By keeping these strategies in mind, you can make a big difference in creating a society where neurodivergent people are supported, respected, and empowered. You might not know if someone has an NDD, but all the information I've talked about so far can be applied to everyone, regardless of how their brain functions. The choices you make every day have the ability to make the world a better place.
Thank you so much for listening to this presentation. If you have any questions or personal experiences you'd like to share, feel free to comment below. Again, thank you for listening and caring enough to learn about neurodiversity and neurodevelopmental disorders. This is a topic that means so much to me, and I hope in time more people will feel the same. And with that, goodbye for now. Thank you.